There's something about Goku in the end of Dragon Ball Z that's completely mysterious, and the reasons behind it are actually kind of weird because when you look at what he went through in his life, he shouldn't be mysterious at all. But in today's video, we will talk about it, and the first thing that we will discuss in today's video is actually dealing with his gi. Now, this is a rather random way to start the video, but when you actually think about it, Goku having that blue tank top just feels different from all of the other uniforms that Goku's had throughout Dragon Ball history. He usually dons a symbol representing one of his masters, or he usually has an outfit similar to his orange and blue gi that we've seen throughout Dragon Ball history. But there's just something about Goku at the end of Dragon Ball Z and what we saw in Dragon Ball GT with a lighter clothing theme that just really separates him from the pack. And to be completely honest with you, his change of uniform to a completely stark contrast compared to what we had seen before really gave Goku this feeling of feeling like some sort of master that somehow transcended all of his other previous incarnations at that point of the series, even though we never really actually saw Goku in the End of Z fighting anybody other than Oob at that point with this uniform. And the interesting thing about it is that we actually got a chance to see it in Dragon Ball GT, but because Goku was a kid, it kind of took away that allure of seeing an adult Goku looking completely different. It's sort of like GT basically reset everything that Goku had went through before, so the change in his uniform just didn't have the same effect that it originally had when we saw him at the end of Dragon Ball Z. But there's more things to this though, because when we see Goku at the end of Z, there's a mysterious time skip as mentioned by Bulma. Bulma specifically said that she hadn't seen Goku in 5 years, and this brings about a lot of questions about Goku because throughout this peaceful time you kind of wonder what he's been going through. And even though the simple answer is that Goku basically lived a peaceful life because it's implied that there are no major threats that ever came to the Earth, it really makes you question how powerful Goku truly is. The effect of how strong he is truly amazing when you consider the fact that we see Goku fighting against Oob in his base form. Now, when you actually think about this, the way the series actually showed Goku and described him without having to directly use words is truly brilliant, because Goku being in his base form the entire time adds this level of mystique towards him, because it's as if he is so beyond what he was before that he doesn't even have a need to transform into a Super Saiyan or a Super Saiyan 2 or Super Saiyan 3. So the mere fact that Goku is fighting against a reincarnated version of Buu in his base form just teases its audience as to how strong Goku actually is. Now, of course, Dragon Ball GT reduced this by seeing a kid version of Goku with that gi going into multiple Super Saiyan transformations, but the effect of seeing Goku in his base form just adds this level of confidence to his aura. And when we compare this to other characters that we saw at the end of Dragon Ball Z, to be specific, Piccolo and Vegeta, two former rivals of Goku, there's a very different effect when we actually see these characters. In the case of Piccolo specifically, the interesting thing about him is that he actually mentions the reason why he doesn't want to compete against Goku is because he sees no point in it. Goku at that point was basically the man of Dragon Ball and didn't really have any competition anymore. And even the same thing for Vegeta, who was basically instructed by Goku to go to the tournament, but never really had any interest in fighting him the way he did before, really adds to this. Now, of course, there's the Kanzenban ending, which shows that Vegeta did still have a desire to compete with Goku, but considering the fact that right before the end of Z, we had seen Vegeta basically admitting and, accepting Goku as his superior, truly adds to another chapter of the rivalry between Goku and Vegeta, something that we really hadn't seen before at that point. And when we consider the fact that Goku and Vegeta have gone through so much training in Dragon Ball Super, and the End of Z is supposedly supposed to try and tie up into Super, it's as if what would happen in Dragon Ball Z gives Goku some amazing type of power that is so beyond our comprehension that he doesn't even need to transform anymore. He just can walk around with this new gi in his base form, and that itself just strikes so much fear and respect into his contemporaries. Now, when we go on to Goku, another thing that we could also talk about here is also dealing with the fact that in many ways, this is truly the first time in Dragon Ball history that Goku has truly become an actual master. Now, of course, Goku has trained people before. We saw him training with Gohan in the Room of Spirit and Time, and obviously Goku has assisted, but when you see the transition between Goku being a student to a master, and also that correlating with his change of gi, it truly adds another mystique to his character as well, because this version of Goku was seen training with Goten. This version of Goku was mentioned in training with Pan. And then when we consider the fact that this Goku aims to ultimately train with Oob, it's as if this version of Goku has basically acquired everything that he ever needed to acquire in the Dragon Ball universe. Like his power is essentially infinite, and the only thing that he ever needs to do at this point is to basically train the next generation. Which is why you see him training Goten and Pan and Oob, because it's as if he knows that he has nothing else to really attain. Like his powers have gone beyond, and he doesn't have anything else to do but to just pass his knowledge on to those who come after him. And when we see Goku in Dragon Ball GT, the interesting thing about this, and the unfortunate thing about this, is that Dragon Ball GT truly reduced one of the most interesting things about his character in reducing him back to a kid. Because there's this level of maturity that you see of Goku in the End of Z. Now, of course, Goku's always a smiling, happy guy that will always maintain his childlike view on life. But there's just this level of understanding of Goku that seeing him transforming into a kid again truly took away from this mastery that was completed in the end of Dragon Ball Z, and seeing Goku reduced to that other form just took away that allure that we had seen before. But when we go more into Dragon Ball GT, and to talk more specifically about going into a more divine-like state, there's a video that's uploaded to this channel talking about how Goku became a god in Dragon Ball GT, and that whole video goes in depth about it. It's probably the second best video I've ever uploaded outside of my alternate timeline theory. And in that specific video, I give direct evidence that Goku did essentially attain divine powers based off of the fact that he directly granted Goku Jr.'s wish. And when you actually go back and you rewatch the GT A Hero's Legacy special, you will see that Goku truly had ascended into beyond. And even if you say Dragon Ball GT isn't canon, the fact that we see that End of Z-like Goku again as an adult, passing on a little bit of knowledge into Goku Jr. and also performing divine-like acts, truly correlates to what we saw with Goku at the end of Dragon Ball Z. And that's one of the beautiful things about the ending of Z and the ending of Dragon Ball GT, that even though you can say one is not canon, they're very connected in a lot of different ways, because it truly adds to that allure and that mystery of Goku once again, albeit in a much more divine-like way, because Goku has basically merged with the Dragon Balls, and if you watch that video, you'll find out more about that. But essentially, going back into all of that, and also the fact that we can now mention Dragon Ball Super, the most interesting thing about all of this, guys, is the fact that Dragon Ball Super has ultimately showed Goku and Vegeta training with gods. Now, of course, Dragon Ball GT went into a totally different direction, with Goku basically merging with the Dragon Balls, and the Dragon Balls being taken away for several hundred years, actually, to be specific, exactly 100 years. But when we go back to what we saw in Dragon Ball Super, Goku directly is training with the gods themselves, where we see Goku training more like an angel, and Vegeta training more like a god of destruction. So when we see both of them at the end of Z in a more relaxed, mature state, it's as if both Goku and Vegeta have basically accomplished everything that they need to, and Vegeta really doesn't see a need to really compete with Goku anymore the way that he did before. It's as if everything that ever needs to be said is completely understood. So looking at Dragon Ball Super, what we see in all of the fights and training that Goku and Vegeta went through, and that's truly one of the beautiful things about both the End of Z and Dragon Ball GT, that you can basically take what we saw in Dragon Ball Z and go into two completely different routes. Now, whether you say Dragon Ball Super is a good show, or whether you say GT is a good show, is basically a whole other conversation for another day. But the way that they handled Goku and the direction that they took his character is truly one of the greatest things that Dragon Ball has ever had to offer. Now, of course, there are those that aren't happy with the End of Z, where basically Goku just found some random kid that was basically a reincarnation of what Kid Buu was, and basically just said, hey, goodbye family, I'm gonna go train this random kid. But the way that they set up his character at the very least was a very effective way to close the chapter of Dragon Ball Z.